Let's build your vocabulary. And by the end of the lesson, I promise you will learn something new. And I say that confidently because we are going to talk about some advanced vocabulary. I say super advanced because these are nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs that are at a C2 level and beyond. Now, you may be wondering, are these words often used? Is it absolutely necessary that I learn such words? And the answer is really, it depends. Now, of course, these are words that you're not going to hear all the time, but it is going to help you be more descriptive and more precise if you are someone who uses English often, every day, or would like to be able to engage in a variety of topics and express yourself easily, naturally, and really add some flavor to your English vocabulary. Of course, this is a quiz lesson, so I want you to participate in the lessons. And if you'd like to get the lesson notes, click on the link down below in the description. You can join our email community and you can access these notes that you see next to me right here. If you're already a part of our community, check your inbox. I have sent them to you. So we're going to start out with some advanced verbs. And I'm going to give you a question. This is going to be a fill in the blank, and I want you to write your answers in the chat or in the comments. Even if you're watching this later, use that comment section and participate in the lesson. That's what this is all about. That is what interactive English is all about. And I'll go ahead and tell you my name's Wes. I didn't even do the introduction. If you are someone who wants to build your vocabulary, subscribe, turn on notifications. That way I can become your teacher. So you can see me right here in this first picture. And the sentence, my daughter, me. She told me she had not eaten ice cream today, but she had some earlier. So just based on this context, you know that she tricked me. She had some ice cream and then told me, oh, I didn't have any ice cream. This actually happens quite often. And then afterwards, I could say, oh, you, me. Now, I've given you a word already that is like a synonym for this. She tricked me. She deceived me. And again, when it comes to kids, I don't think it's necessary to use such strong words. And in this case, this is a fun word. This is why I think this verb is great in this situation. And I think this is a challenging one. I haven't seen any answers. You could say she bamboozled me. To bamboozle someone is to trick or deceive someone in a different way. And in this case, again, we can use it playfully. So it means to trick or deceive someone, often by confusing them. And you could bamboozle someone, or in this case, I could say, I was bamboozled. She bamboozled me. And I wanted to teach you this verb mostly because I just like saying the word bamboozle. You can give it a try. It's a fun verb to say. But to give you a little more context, because I want to give you some examples with these words, here are some news headlines so that you can kind of get a better understanding as to how this verb is used. So I'll just read through these quickly. Why smartphones bamboozle politicians. They don't know, again, I don't know if it's like how to use them or how to create legislation around smartphones. Or the second one, holiday firms tried to bamboozle customers with long TNCs. TNCs in this case refers to terms and conditions. And they tried to bamboozle customers with certain words and phrases. And then finally, watch GAA star bamboozle Australian foe with Gaelic football skill that leaves AFL crowd stunned. And you would trick or deceive someone, you will bamboozle this person. The next one, because I have quite a few words that I want to cover today. After the controversy, his chances of winning the election started to What verb would you use? In this case, I'm using the infinitive. Started to. So you could kind of start to put two and two together. There's some type of controversy. That's not a good thing. So what's going to happen to your chances of winning? They're going to go down, or they are going to, I'm giving you the first two letters of this verb. Hopefully that is a little bit more of a hint so that you can kind of guess the word. Excellent. Nice. Sir Law, Ruben, Mr. Castro, Patricio are not dwell, but dwindle. So to dwindle. After the controversy, his chances of winning the election. Sorry, that's a small typo there. It should be the article the. After his chances of winning the election started to dwindle. So if something starts to dwindle or is dwindling, it's becoming smaller in size or amount, or just fewer in number. So for this time, I'm going to try to switch it up as far as these examples go. I, checked out the thesaurus. You can see it right there. And these are some other synonyms for dwindle. Now, some of these other synonyms are even probably less frequently used, but just again, to get more of an idea as to other verbs that have a similar meaning: abate, decay, decline, decrease, die down, diminish, drop. I think some of those I would prefer, even in this context, you could use, like the chances of winning started to decrease, started to diminish, started to drop, or started to dwindle, to become less. The next one, his injury could the team's chances of winning. And this time I did include that article, the team's chances of winning. So what verb is going to complete this sentence? It begins with the letter J. I feel like this one is perhaps one that you are familiar with. I think it is a little more commonly used if you watch, I think, the news or read the newspaper, like the New York Times or Washington Post or a variety of English newspapers. This is a verb that you might hear. Great job. Excellent. Yes. Perfect. Jeopardize. Good job, Julia, Romelia. I'll try to give some shout outs as we go along. Lolly, excellent. Good to see you. His injury could jeopardize the team's chances of winning. So if this happens to be a new verb for you, what does it mean? It means to put someone or something in a situation in which there is a danger of loss, harm, or failure. So you're going to jeopardize something. And I wanted to this time give you some common collocations with this verb. Now, of course, this is just a sample. There are actually several different variations they go through. They give you quite a lot. So you might jeopardize the chances, jeopardize the safety of something. You could jeopardize your relations or jeopardize the passengers, workers, follow it with any noun group of people. Jeopardize your chances of something happening, like winning or succeeding. Jeopardize the health of something, jeopardize the mission, the operation, jeopardized his life, career, position, or saying something could, may, will jeopardize everything. And talking about in risk or at risk of jeopardizing. There are many different ways, as you can see, that people will use this verb. So I think this one is very useful and a nice descriptive verb. How about this next question? He refused my offer immediately and said that he would not even such a low offer. This is a verb that you have definitely heard. Perhaps not in this context, because this verb that starts with an E has a multiple meaning. So we're refusing an offer because it's so low, and this person says, I am not even going to such a low offer. What verb could we use that starts with an E? You're refusing it. I'm just going to give you the meaning, not even going to think about it. I'm not even going to consider this. I'm not even going to entertain such a low offer. So in this context, we're talking about the verb to entertain, not to make someone feel happy with some type of performance. But in this case, we're talking about giving attention or consideration to some idea, feeling, perhaps a suggestion. And in this case, somebody offers something, you're like, yeah, I'm not even going to entertain this offer, or I'm not even going to entertain your suggestion. And the one thing that I'd point out with this verb, and this is not a fixed rule, is often people may use this in the negative to say that you are not going to consider something or think about it or give attention to this idea. So I've given you some example sentences right there. He refused, like the first one we just said, he refused my offer immediately, said he would not even entertain such a low offer, or I will not begin to entertain such accusations, or she wouldn't entertain his outlandish suggestions. In each of those sentences, I am using it more with that negative, to not give attention, to not entertain. Excellent job. Some right answers. Evany, Sola, good. To entertain an idea or thought. How about this verb? He was able to effectively the new company policy. This verb starts with an A. And once again, I think this is one that you have probably heard of. When it comes to a lot of vocabulary, I think many of you may have, passive understanding of these words, that you hear them or you read them and you think, okay, I know what they mean, or I can put it in context. But when you're having a conversation, maybe you don't actively use it. And that's why it's good to get review, learn these, relearn them. In this case, if you already know it. I have not seen any correct answers, but let me give you the answer. He was able to effectively articulate the new company policy. Now, of course, there are other verbs that start with A. I saw some answers in there like adapt, adopt. That would work. It would work in this situation. I don't want to say that you're wrong. But the word in this case that I was wanting to teach you is the word articulate, to articulate something, which means to express yourself readily, clearly, and effectively. So some of you that you put in those other verbs with A, adopt, adapt, accept, again, they would work. But the verb that I want to teach you is to articulate, which means if you're trying to articulate something, perhaps your ideas or your suggestions, that you just want to express yourself clearly and effectively. The one thing that I want to point out with this verb is that you can use it as a verb to articulate something. The stress is on the second syllable. Or you could use it as an adjective if we're just looking at this picture and saying, well, this gentleman is very articulate. Again, I'm stressing the second syllable. The difference between the two, the verb and the adjective, is that final and fourth syllable. So with the verb, you have that long A sound, to articulate, whereas with the adjective, now we have that I, articulate, articulate. To articulate, or saying someone is articulate. Something to keep in mind, but it's part of the same word family, same meaning, but different pronunciation. How about speaking of adjectives like articulate, let's look at some other advanced adjectives. And as we go, I'm going to switch it up a little bit and quiz you in a different way. So what I want to do this time is really provide you with some different synonyms. Again, I'm giving you the part of the word, the first letter, as a little bit of a hint. Again, these are all adjectives, and then some synonyms below to see if you can kind of come up with the missing word. So this is an adjective that begins with the letter S. It is one that is definitely probably not as commonly used. It is certainly more advanced. But some synonyms would be self-righteous, insincere, hypocritical, pious, smug. These are all synonyms for, starts with an S. Again, let me show you because this is a little more challenging. If you want to say someone is sanctimonious. Sanctimonious means that, that just self-righteous. You think you're better than everyone else. Here's an example sentence. He gave a self-serving and sanctimonious speech. A lot of times people will use this adjective and then follow it with a, derogatory noun, like, oh, this sanctimonious jerk or this sanctimonious. Then you can put in the word that is negative and you're just emphasizing, how much you just don't like this person and saying they're sanctimonious. This is another fun word. Starts with a P an adjective that has a similar meaning to ridiculous, strange, bizarre, foolish, and excessive. A lot of these synonyms have been taken from the thesaurus.com. And in this case, you would often hear this adjective in a certain statement that I will show you in just a bit. You can use that picture, which is ridiculous. It's a little strange. And I would say, wow, look at this picture. That's what? Thinking about this situation, that it could possibly happen, I'd say, that's what? Not peculiar, kind of close. But there's another word that we're looking for. Excellent. Ahmad, we're talking about preposterous. That is the adjective that I wanted to teach you. So in this sentence, the cow won't be able to climb over the stile. That's preposterous. The cow won't be able to do that. That's just preposterous. And that is the sentence I was talking about. You have some situation and you want to say, well, instead of saying that's ridiculous, that's crazy, that's foolish, you could say that's preposterous. Fun word. Another one. Again, maybe it's like bamboozle. I just like saying preposterous. How about this one? And I think you could use the picture as a little bit of a hint. This is an adjective that you would use to describe a person. And some synonyms include practical, balanced, composed, reasonable, cool-headed. And I feel like this is a good adjective you could use when talking about someone in a work environment and you want to give this person a compliment, talking about your colleague or maybe your boss, that they are very practical, they can remain calm in difficult situations, and you could say this person is excellent. Long Takayo. I thought you might get that one. Level-headed. So if somebody's level-headed, I feel, again, this is a compliment. It's a good thing if somebody says you're level-headed, and it just means all of those things. You're balanced, reasonable. You can stay calm in these challenging situations. And I gave you an example sentence. My colleague works well under pressure. She's very level-headed. How about this next adjective right here? Again, I feel like this one's a little tricky. Perhaps there is another word that you might come up with, but some synonyms for this word include alarming, awful, dire, disheartening, dreadful. So it's not a good situation. And instead of saying that, well, this is awful, or this is alarming, this is what? And I feel like sometimes you may use this more as an attributive adjective before the noun, talking about, in this case, perhaps a task that you have to do. And like, oh, this is such a task. And the word that we're looking for, well done, Romelia, Julia, daunting. Saying something is daunting is similar to saying alarming or awful or disheartening. For example, he faces the daunting prospect of up to 3 different exams in one day. That is dreadful. That is daunting. And then we have this adjective right here. I feel like maybe you'll be able to get this one. And some synonyms include atrocious, deplorable, extreme, flagrant, glaring. What word am I talking about? What do you think? Write your answers in the comments, in the chat. Just want to hear from you. And again, this is, I think, one that you may use with the noun mistake. That somebody makes, instead of a deplorable mistake or an atrocious mistake, and what? Starts with an E. You're really emphasizing just how bad something is. And you could describe it as being, hopefully, well, maybe you're thinking of the word egregious. All right, great job, Alex. Yu Chen, perfect. Julia, Lolly. So if you say something is egregious, these are some synonyms, and I told you might use it with the word mistake. He made an egregious mistake. And you're really adding emphasis to just how bad or concerning that the mistake is. To put some of this into like context, you could go to, if you want to know how frequently some of these words are used, whether it's these adjectives or any word or phrase, and you would like to compare them, this is a great resource. You can go to Google Ngram Viewer, and it basically puts it on a graph and shows you the frequency. And it's really based on written English and not spoken English, but it's a good way to get a snapshot. And I put these adjectives in there, and you could see just looking at this that words like daunting, egregious are more commonly used than the other ones that we talked about: sanctimonious, level-headed, and preposterous. I was surprised to see that at the bottom. And I guess maybe I shouldn't say I'm that surprised, because I do feel like that is a word that you would hear more in spoken English as opposed to written English. So in that case, I think it may make sense, because again, this is taken from like all of written English and graphing it for you. All right, now we're moving into some nouns. Right? There's a lot to cover today, and let's look at some advanced nouns. This time, I want to give you some common collocations. These are words that are frequently used together. So I'm not just giving you the noun, but some other words that are often used with this noun. Again, it's a fill in the blank, but I've highlighted the collocation. He boasted about his accomplishments and walked around the stage with an air of what? What noun could you use that you might use it with this collocation? An air of what? This is describing someone that, again, you're not happy. You could probably describe this person as a sanctimonious prick, and you don't like this person because they're strutting around with an air of, yes, superiority. Nice, Manuel, Julia. So if somebody is, again, going around with it, they're acting like as though they just, they have this air of superiority. It's not a good thing. So superiority refers to the fact that one person or thing is better, stronger than another. If we're talking about people, it really has a negative connotation if someone is acting like they're better. But if you're comparing things like two different things, like phones or something, and saying, well, this phone is just, it has superiority over this other thing, right? Then you're just saying it's better, which in that case, it's not necessarily negative. But here are some common collocations with this noun: an air of superiority, technological superiority. That would probably be better if I said the phone exhibits, just technological superiority over this other phone. You could talk about military superiority or moral superiority. These are other collocations that are used with this noun. How about this one? And I think many of you may be able to get this noun because it's probably a little more often used. You watch TV shows, movies. I imagine this is a word you have probably come across. The court awarded to the mother. Pretty simple sentence. We're talking about the court, the judicial system. And this is another word that you might hear in that context. And I'm using it with the verb awarded. So that is the collocation. This is a verb-noun collocation with this advanced noun. So we're talking about the court is going to award what to the mother, and the noun is custody, to award custody. The meaning of custody, in case you are unfamiliar with it, it is just referring to the legal right or duty to care for someone or something, especially a child. A lot of times when people talk about custody, children are part of this discussion. And some common collocations with this noun. Again, these are all verb noun collocations: to award custody, to get custody, to share custody, to grant custody, or even to gain or lose custody. These are all verbs that are frequently used with the noun custody. You guys rock that one. I think many of you knew it, which is great. Always good to get a little review. Here is the next question. I still love scuba diving, but after several dives, the started to wear off. I realize now that I give you this example, I said I would highlight the actual collocation, and the collocation with this noun would be what follows: started to wear off. The started to wear off. That is the collocation. So we're talking about, don't worry too much about the activity scuba diving, but think about the situation. You go scuba diving, this person still loves it, but the more they do it, you become accustomed to it, you get used to it. It's not as big of a deal, and you could say the started to wear off. And that is the collocation. We're going to use that noun and follow it with started to wear off. There are, I'd say possibly there might be other nouns that you could use, but I feel like there's one definitely that is often used in this context. Good job, Alex. The novelty. The novelty started to wear off. I wouldn't really say the passion or the enthusiasm started to wear off. Grammatically, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not often used. In this context, you could say the novelty started to wear off. I think that would be more suitable to this situation, because novelty, it just refers to, well, technically speaking, the quality of being new and unusual. So the more you do something, especially if at the beginning it's very exciting, it's new, it's different, but over time, I think this is going to happen. The novelty is going to wear off. And there are different ways that you could say it, even though all of these collocations have a similar meaning, saying the novelty is wearing off and using it in the continuous tense, or the novelty is starting to wear off, or the novelty has worn off, and using that past perfect. But really just thinking of saying that, well, you become used to something, it's not new or exciting. Oh yeah, the novelty has started to wear off, and it's not as strange or different or unusual. Good phrase to know. I included this. This is a little joke from like the Your e-cards, just to give you another example with this, saying the novelty of your lazy eye has yet to wear off. It's a very strange statement to say that, which is why it's supposed to be funny and ridiculous and absurd. I know what you're thinking. That's preposterous. Nobody would say that to another person. And you're right. The next, my wife, she doesn't like to be seen with me if I'm wearing socks and sandals. But I could say socks and sandals are making a what? And again, I apologize, I forgot to highlight the collocation. I don't think it would be too much of a hint, but making a This is a verb noun collocation. To make a what? I know that the whole socks and sandals thing is not giving you too much of a hint, but if I wanted to help you out a little bit and say that maybe this is something that people did a long time ago and now it's starting to become trendy again, what would you say? It's becoming trendy again. It's making a what? I would say, I would like to think that this is true, but I don't think it is. The answer is to make a comeback. And a comeback would refer to a situation in which someone or something becomes popular, famous, successful after a period of being much less popular. So I think people would talk about maybe actors or in this regard, that someone was very famous and then they go through this period of time in which they have not been working and starring in movies or TV shows, and then you see them again and you say, well, this person has made a comeback or is making a comeback. You could also use it to refer to companies as well that You have this period in which they're not very popular, even though they're known, and then they make a comeback. Here are some other verb noun collocations: to make a comeback, to mount a comeback, or even to stage a comeback. All three of those are somewhat interchangeable when talking about this noun, a comeback. And this is a little more current events for you. We're just talking about actors. Please don't raise your voice. You are making a Once again, I meant to include this verb noun collocation: to make a. What noun are you going to follow this with? And I think this is a good phrase to know, because probably you might be in this situation and it's not something that occurs all the time. It's very specific, but I think it's useful. And I'm just trying to, I gave you that picture there of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. I don't think things are going well, but it was part of this news headline. So instead of giving you the news headline, I just want to share the picture with you and then give a sentence. And I feel like many of you know it. We're talking about making a scene. Great job. What are you, Julia, Natasha, Chesterton? Good job. Excellent. So if someone is making a scene, this would refer to an expression of anger or some similar feelings to being angry between two people, and you're referring to like this, an occasion when this happens. So I said it's useful because you may be in a situation in public with another person who is upset. They start speaking loudly and it's a little embarrassing, and you could tell, look, you're making a scene. There's no need to make a scene. And you would use it with that verb, to make a scene, or you could say someone is causing a scene and people are looking because they're acting really, they're really frustrated, they're angry, and they're showing this. Or you could refer to this and say, well, that was quite a scene, or saying something is quite a scene. Great noun to know. Again, it is more advanced, it's more specific, but I think it's useful because it applies to a situation that I'm sure if I asked you, can you think of a time when you saw someone making a scene? I'm sure that you can think of an instance when that was happening. So let's look at some advanced adverbs. We're not done yet. I have a lot of words I told you that I want to look at today. So I'm making this multiple choice. This may be a little easier than some of the other questions. They follow order blind that are okay, I'm gonna start over. They follow orders without questioning authority. I'm laughing because I started to say the answer. I was getting ahead of myself. They follow orders without questioning authority. What adverb, these ly words, are we going to use? I think maybe you all know this because I think this was a little easier, even though I started to say, yes, the word be, blindly. So if you say someone is blindly doing something, it means they're just not thinking about or understanding like what they are doing. You're not questioning anything. And we were just talking about collocations. I think that is a collocation as well, to blindly follow orders. And you're not questioning and you are just blindly following orders. How about this question right here? What adverb would you use to complete this sentence? The town is remote and populated. A, sparsely, B, resoundingly, or C, decrepitly. Which word completes that sentence? The town is remote and populated. So we're talking about, if you know what the meaning of the word remote is, it'll make it easier. It means that it's kind of isolated. It's not close to anything, and therefore it would lead you to believe that there is not much of a population. And I'm just keep talking, but you guys got the answer. Sparsely. Saying something is sparsely populated, meaning that there is a small number or amount of people or things. You could say it's sparsely populated. Again, in this case, an adverb, adjective collocation saying something is sparsely populated. Now, maybe I keep thinking maybe this is going to get a little more difficult, but I think you guys are going to get most of these with the multiple choice. They worked in order to fix the mistake before the deadline. How were these people working? So just putting it, into context, there's a deadline, there's a mistake, we need to fix it. So, of course, I think you probably are trying to imagine, well, how these people are working. In this case, there is only one adverb that would appropriately complete this sentence. They're not going to work lethargically because that means that they're moving slowly. There's a deadline. Freely, it doesn't really apply, so it just leaves us with A, expeditiously. If somebody is working expeditiously, they are working with speed and efficiency. Perfect. How about the next one, which may be a little more challenging? Our vacation didn't start. The flight was delayed for 12 hours. What do you think goes in that blank? A, tacitly, B, profoundly, or C, auspiciously? Write your answers in the comment, in the chat. I think this one is going to be a little more challenging. What do you think? Our vacation didn't start. The flight was delayed for 12 hours. So in this case, we're talking about a situation in which, it's not a good situation. So what verb or what adverb in this case would work? Thank you so much. Cinderella essence. I love it. I appreciate it. I love the little dancing guy there. Perfect. So we're talking about an adverb that you could do a process of elimination. And again, this is a little trickier, but the answer is C, auspiciously. So auspiciously means in a way that suggests a positive or successful future. So we're saying that, again, there's a negative. It did not start positively because, the flight was delayed. So it didn't start auspiciously. That can be a little tricky because of that negative in there. You're saying, it did not start positively because of this bad event that happened. And you could say it didn't start auspiciously. Profoundly kind of means something is deep, meaningful. It really doesn't fit this context. And tacitly really means like something is the way somebody's communicating and saying something directly. Once again, it really doesn't fit in this context. And then how about this one? They ignored any evidence that did not support their theory. Which of these adverbs completes this sentence? They ignored any evidence that did not support their theory. If you know the meaning of some of these other ones, again, I think you could use process of elimination because the meaning is really not going to fit in with what the sentence is trying to convey. So in this case, meticulously, if somebody is working meticulously, they're paying close attention to detail, you wouldn't really use it with the verb ignore. You wouldn't meticulously ignore something. Ardently also does not fit really well, so we're going to go with blithely, B. And if somebody does something blithely, and this is another collocation, to blithely ignore something, you are, happy without worry, and it's like this cheerful indifference. So cheerful is a key word. If somebody, in this case, blithely ignored, you are cheerful, you're not going to pay any attention to evidence that goes against what you want to prove. So you are cheerfully ignoring this thing that you should be paying attention to. And that is another collocation. I know I gave you all a lot of words in this lesson. Here is a little bit of review. You can see all these words. If you want to get access to these lesson notes, remember, click on that link down in the description. Join our email community. If you are already a part of the community, again, check your inbox. I have already sent them to you. Now for the moment of truth. My question, my poll, how did you do on the quiz? Let me know in the comments, in the chat, how you did. I'm going to give you a poll. I'll do like great, maybe 100%, not bad, 75%, and then we'll do okay, 50%, and then I learned a lot of new words, we'll say is maybe 25%, because I'm sure with all of these questions, I bet there were definitely some that you got. And you can let me know right now, right at this very moment, how you did on the quiz. If you enjoy lessons like this and you like building your vocabulary, especially with some very advanced words that I told you are specific in certain situations, like I just gave you that example of somebody making a scene, and you could use that collocation. Hit that like button. It tells me that I should do more lessons like this. I do want to thank all of you for participating in the lesson. I want to give a special shout out again for Cinderella Essence for that super chat. I really appreciate it. Great to see so many members in here today. Lolly, good to see you, as well as people that have participated in my Speak Up course. Takayo, glad you were here, and other people that I always see each week. Angela, Talal, Manuel, Ken, Natasha, Nova, Surla. Thank you so much for joining me, being a part of the lesson. And let me see where we're at. I think, again, for the most part, seems like many of you learned a lot of new words. A couple people, wow, I'm impressed. Some of you saying you got 100% on this quiz. That's awesome. Excellent. But with all of these lessons, my goal is that you learn something new, and hopefully, even if you knew some of the words, maybe you learn some new collocations or ways in which these words are used. Thank you so much. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I